Hello everyone. Today I'll be discussing a very important topic which is called DAX, and the full form is data analysis expressions. It is basically used in Microsoft Excel and Power BI to add custom formulas and custom calculations to your data pane or the data table. So yeah, let's dive in. So basically the question is, why do we actually need DAX? So here I've already loaded the data in my Power BI server or the Power BI desktop, and here we can see I have my data table here which is visible, and once you can look at the table view with the details of the data. So we have order ID, order date, sales region, city and customer segmentation, and some other features of our data. We also got some of the numerical columns, which is unit cost, unit price, quantity and discount. Now if I want to look at some of the data uh, insights that I can get from this table, the only thing which is visible right now is quantity, or maybe average unit cost, or maybe unit price. But we cannot get details into some other values which are like sales, total revenue, and the net profit. These things are not visible here, and the way to add it is possible through DAX. Now let's see what all things we can visualize right now in this particular instance. Let's suppose I want to look at region was wise quantity order. So I'll go to my bar chart and I'll add quantity, and I'll also add region. So I get a region wise total quantity. Now there's some limitations. We can only get the sum of quantity, and though there are some of the other features which are already there, like average, minimum, maximum, count, but these are very limited. If I want to get more insights into this data, it is almost impossible with just these features. So DAX give you a useful way to analyze the other things and gain more business ideas. So basically, why is DAX important? First of all, it is more robust. Why robust? Because here we have only sum of quantity. Now, if some other person is analyzing the same data and he does not change this, then suppose I want to get it for average, then there will be some ambiguity between two reports. The other thing is, if I fix a formula which only calculates sum every time or average every time, then it is much more beneficial as compared to a built-in function which can calculate these values. Other thing is customizable insights, custom insights. So we can get custom insights from our data using DAX. Let's see how. So here's my table. Now I want to get the total revenue, the total cost, and the net profit. So there are few ways in which DAX allows us to get into the data insights, get the data insights. So one of these is new measure. One of these is new measure. Another is new column, and the next one is the new table. We can see this in our table tool column in the table view. We can also see this in our modeling ribbon where we have new measure, new column, and new table. Now suppose for the first problem statement, let's suppose I want to categorize every transaction in either a high value or a low value. So high value is, suppose if I get the total revenue to be more than 750, and if it is less than that, it is low value. So I'll start writing DAX. So basically for this, I want to add a new column. So I'll just click on it. Another way to add the new column is by clicking on your table and selecting new column for you. So once I click on it, it says column equals to. So here I can actually name my column. Now I want to say transaction value grade. Suppose transaction grade is equal to. I'm using the if statement here. Once I use if, so We have the syntax here. It says logical test. We first have to check our logical test. If it is true, then it will proceed to it will proceed with this result. And if it is false, we can specify a result, but it is optional since it's a big bracket. Now let's check. Basically, I want to calculate the total revenue. So how do I calculate it? I'll write unit price. Once you start writing, you can see all the options which are available. So it says from the sales table, I can pick unit price here. You can also press tab and it will auto complete. Unit price into, I want to calculate quantity. So I get this, I can press tab and it will auto complete. Now I also want to remove the discount that we have given. So for discount, I'll just write 1 minus whatever the discount is associated with it, sales discount. But the problem here is it looks very messy. So the best way is to do is to indent it. So I'll go here, I'll press shift and enter. So it will be in the next column and it is indented, next row, and it is indented. I press comma here and then I press shift enter, we'll go to the next line. So now this thing, I have to check if it is greater than 750. If this condition satisfies, I'll specify my action. My action is the sales is high. And I also want to specify if it is low. If the condition fails. So if the condition fails, I want to specify it as low. So my formula here is complete and I want to see what is the result. So I can do this by two ways. I can either press enter or either I can press on this tick mark here, which will say commit. So I'll just press enter and you can see that all the rows in the column is filled with either high or low value. So we have specified the transaction grade, which is either high or low using table tools or DAX. So basically here we can see we have new measure, new column and new table. We have already used new column to specify a transaction grade. Let's look at how new table is beneficial. So what I want to do is in the category column, I have two options. It is accessories and electronics. And I want to isolate all the electronics items into one another table. So the way to do is, again, I'll go to my, I can either select from this pane, table tools, table, new table, or from the visualization or from the report view, I can click on modeling and here I have new table option. Once you click on new table, it says table name. So I want to get only electronics items. So I'll specify electronics. We'll use a function called calculate table here. I'll just press tab and it will auto complete. And here I have to first specify what is the table, original table from which we are extracting our filter. So our table is sales. I have specified the table name. Now I press comma and I specify the filter. So the filter I want to specify is category. So I want to see if sales category is equal to electronics. And I complete it with a close bracket and I press enter. Once I press enter, you can see there's another table here, which is calculated table. Here we can see a small calculator sign as well. Let me zoom in. Here we can see the small electronics, small calculator symbol. Our new table is made here. Now I want to see this table. To see this table, I'll just click on this table and I'll go to the table view. Here we can see that all the categories here is just electronics, right? So yeah, isolated a calculated table as well. Now the most important part of our DAX is measures. I'll first show it and then I'll define what is the difference between these three and when are these three useful. So now I've got the transaction grade, I have isolated the electronics table, and now I want to see the total revenue for each and every sales or orders. So I click on new measure here, or you can also right click here and get new measure. So if I say new measure, I want to first calculate the total revenue and total. And for the total revenue, I want to calculate an expression for associated to each row, which is unit price into quantity minus the discount, whatever discount we are providing. So we have an expression So we cannot directly use sum here. We'll use sum x here, and sum x actually first wants the table from where we want to extract our value, which is table given here, and then we'll press shift and enter. You can also press it here. So we have specified our table, and then once I press shift plus enter, I can specify our expression that we want to calculate. So our expression is unit price into quantity into 1 minus discount. And once I press shift plus enter and close the bracket, so our expression here is this, which calculates the total sales, and we have specified our table here. So once I press enter, we see that there's no change in our table. There's no change, but here we can see there's a calculated measure which is visible, total revenue, and this total revenue is not calculated here, but a measure is actually calculated on the fly when you need it. Now, since I've calculated my total revenue here, I want to see how does this change, because I'm not able to see anything in our table. So what we'll do is we'll look at a map with our city, and I want to see where are our maximum sales. So I'll just click on total revenue, which is a measure, and we can see that the bubble size has increased. You can see that in the bubble size, we have specified total revenue here, or it automatically gets dragged in here. We can also drag it manually, but once you click here, it assigns itself in the bubble size. So what are the differences that we saw? In case of total measure, it is not calculated and added to our uh, table. So basically, it does not increase the memory size, and it is only calculated when added to reports. So once we added uh, a measure to a report, it calculated it on the fly, and we are able to see the visualizations. But basically, in case of new table and new column, both of these increases size. So both of these increases size, and they are stored. But in case of measure, it is not stored. In case of measure, it is not stored. And it does not increase memory size. Another thing is it is calculated on the fly when added to the report. So now I'll calculate other measures to get to our total profit. So we'll just right click here on the sale columns and add a new measure. Measure equals to, we'll do the same thing, sum x, specify our table sales, and I want to calculate, this time I want to calculate the total cost. So I have to calculate the expression, which is unit cost into, we have quantity. We'll press enter, and we haven't specified our name, which is total cost. So yeah, once we calculate our measure here, we see a new thing here, which is called measure tools. So once I go to the measure tools, it gives you some of the functionalities of your measure. So my number here, it says it is in whole format. We can change our number to currency, and suppose I don't want to see any decimal points, so I'll specify 0 here. We can do the same thing for total revenue. We'll specify general to currency, and here also I'll give it to 0. To calculate the net profit, we'll just subtract revenue from cost. So we'll say new measure, we'll say total profit or net profit. We have total cost, or we can get first total revenue minus total cost. Specified. Now I want to visualize all these three into a particular table. So we'll go to our report view, go to the next page, and here I'll select matrix. And I want to add another thing to my data pane, which is called hierarchy. So we have subcategory as well as category here. So I want to specify a hierarchy in which the subcategory falls into the category. So we have a hierarchy in which we only have category here, and I want to also add subcategory to this hierarchy. So I'll just right click here to subcategory, click to add to hierarchy, and then category hierarchy. We have category and subcategory here. So I want to see all these measures that we calculated: total cost, total revenue, and the net profit. Let me change its value to currency, and let's visualize it. So it is beneficial to look at the numbers first, because then we'll get the idea of how a measure is working. So we'll select the category hierarchy here, and we'll select all these: total cost, total revenue, and the net profit. So here we can see it was not available. This data was not available in my table view. But once I go to my visualization pane and I add those measures to my report, we can see that there are changes which are made, and we can see how these things vary for different segments. So yeah, this is how you use measures in Power BI and Power Pivot. Now let's look at some of the details. So basically, now since I've shown you how to use DAX, so basically we'll go through the slides just for completion. We have a library of functions and operators that can be combined to build formulas and expressions in Power BI, analysis services, and Power Pivot. This is the definition which has been given by Microsoft. So the main idea that we have to take from here is we are allowed to build your own formulas and expressions, which is a very powerful tool and a robust tool to get business insights. It offers more control and ensures consistency. Now, suppose if I use only the Power BI default values, we can generally get some. And if someone was calculating and suppose an average, and another person forgot to change that default value to average, then basically we'll have inconsistency, and then accuracy is given. Since we are using the same formula for over and over for each and every report, the accuracy and consistency remains the same over all the reports. The main advantage is we have our own calculations which we can use to get business insights and business intelligence. I'll give you an example later on towards the end, that how much useful values you can generate from the same data set that we have used to get business insights. So basically DAX are of three types: calculated columns, calculated measures, and calculated tables. For columns, we saw that there's change in our table, and another column is added here, which does row level calculations. So in case of our calculated columns, we saw that the formula generates a new table, which is this, and then it also increases the the value is basically stored, and it increases the size as well. In case of tables, we can do a contextual filtering. Now, if I want to extract only the comedy genre from these movie lists, we can do a contextual filtering and get the subset of the table. Beware that the usage for calculated table is not only limited to this, but the main idea is you can extract and create a new table from the existing table itself. It is also stored and it increases size as well. Let's go to the measures. In measures, once you do a calculation, it is not stored and it is calculated on the fly. So table remains the same, values are not stored, and it is calculated on the fly when added to the report. There's a comparison here, which is the same thing. And here we have completed our basic idea about DAX. Now I want to show you just for completion how powerful it can be. So here I have made a sample where I have done some measures already. So you can see in this case, I have created these measures, which is net profit, total cost, total revenue, and profit previous year, profit margin, and year on year growth. So you can see that these measures can be so powerful in getting business insights. This visualization that I've created using those measures actually shows you the difference between this year's sales. Suppose this was September 2023, September 2024. It shows you year on year growth as well as it shows you the net profit of that particular month. So basically, you can do a comparison in the same visualization. If I get more time, I'll explain this how I got from this basic table to this visualization using only a small amount of calculations or measures. Thank you everyone for listening. Uh, Hope you enjoyed it. If I get another opportunity, I can explain this in more detail and how I got from this table to this visualization at the end. Thank you.